Welcome to the Vol Bros. I did not click the intro, but that was my fault. We are two Vol Bros who are real bros in real life. And my brother, Rustin, is joining us, the Dark Knight, because he is, I believe, joining from his automobile. I don't think he's driving at the moment, which is good. But we are very excited because we are the champions, baby. Not us personally, but the Tennessee Vols basketball team are the regular season SEC champions outright. They don't have to share it with anybody because Alabama lost Tuesday night, which meant that their victory last night over South Carolina ensured that they had clinched. No matter what happens Saturday against Kentucky, Tennessee has won the SEC regular season championship outright. Now, Rustin, before I ask you about your opinions on the game, what do you think is a better championship title to have, regular season champion or SEC tournament champion?
I'm always going to go with regular season because basketball, the only tournament in basketball that matters is the NCAA tournament. If you're in a mid-major, obviously the conference tournament matters because there's only one automatic bid. But if you're in the SEC tournament, the ACC tournament, the Big Ten tournament, none of those matter. They just don't matter. It'd be nice to win both. I will be very surprised if Tennessee does, and honestly, I kind of hope they don't. But the NCAA tournament drastically outranks the SEC tournament.
And I'm assuming the reason you said you hope they don't win the SEC tournament is so that they have a loss before they move into the NCAA tournament, and they're not feeling the pressure of that winning streak.
Yeah, well, two reasons. Number one, I'm not opposed to getting done early and going back and rehabbing and getting healthy and making sure that everybody's 100% for the games that really matter. And, I do think there is such a thing as a little bit of a reality check. I mean, they're playing so extremely well right now. I would hate for the letdown to happen in the Sweet 16. I would much rather it happens in the semifinals of the SEC tournament, just to jolt them back to reality a little bit, get them refocused, give them something to feel like they've got to fight for.
Yeah, absolutely. When you consider regular season versus tournament champion, the tournament, let's be honest, if Tennessee wins the tournament, they're going to play 3 games. That's it. The quarterfinals, the semifinals, and the finals. So that's all there is to it in that situation. You win 3 games, you win the tournament. The regular season was, 20 games? They're, what are they now, 12 and, or 13 and, or 14? No, they're 14. They've won 14 and 5? Something
14
like that?
14 and 3.
14 and 3. Yeah, that's right. So 14, so 18 game regular season. In my opinion, 18 is more impressive than 3 if you're going to be a champion of one of the two. You're also playing in the SEC tournament. You're in neutral sites, neutral site court every single game. Whereas and that's what's been so impressive, and Reed Carringer mentioned this in his Twitter account or X account, whatever. Not only have they won this this regular season, they did the last 2 games on the road. They clinched it on the road against 2 really good teams. And so, I mean, this was just absolutely huge. Absolutely huge. We'll go to the comments real quick and see what everybody's saying before we give our reaction to the game. Because the SEC is stupid. I still hadn't made the shirt. I need to make the shirt. I hit the thumbs up early, making up for last show. Okay, so we got to know, is this Mina Likey or is this Zach? Who is this that has changed their name? Because I don't know who it is now. So let us know in the comments who is, because the SEC is stupid. I love your name, by the way. JL, welcome, JL. They said go big orange. Absolutely. Okay now. I am intrigued by this. So because the SEC is stupid said that we need some Volboro emojis, well, that would come from channel memberships. And that is something that we've considered doing. I don't know what Volboro emojis would be good. So you can let me know I mean, I can make them whatever they are. So you can let me know what would be good Volbro emojis to have, and we can make something happen. Mina Likey, that's who I thought it was. So I'm talking about. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Glad you're here. Let's see here. Sean, welcome, Sean. Good to have you, buddy. He said, "We are the champions." Had that song stuck in my head all day. I actually thought about starting the show tonight with that song. I thought about it, but I didn't want a copyright claim, so I didn't do it. Let's see. Elijah, welcome, Elijah. He said, "Regular season champs, Vols cutting down the nets in Phoenix." Hey, sign me up. Absolutely. That'd be great. Braden, welcome, Braden. Good to have you, buddy. He said, "What's up, Vol Bros? We are the champions." Absolutely. Regular season SEC champions. Elijah said Vols are playing the best ball venue in the country, maybe aside from UConn. Actually, Wally Zerbiak was asked on CBS Sports the other day who is currently playing, or should Dalton Connect be in the running, or National Player of the Year, and he said he should because Tennessee's playing the best basketball of any team in the country right now. So that was encouraging to hear him say that, and it's hard to argue with him because of what they're doing right now. He mentioned the night in night out difficulty of Tennessee's schedule, and they're still winning. Doug said, "I like the makeup of this team." Welcome, Doug. Good to have you. He said they can play an up-tempo game like Alabama and Kentucky like to play, or they can win defensive games like they did last night against South Carolina. You're exactly correct. And that is one of the most incredible things about this team is depending on who's on the floor, you get totally different lineups and styles of play. So Elijah said, clinched it in 2 road games, playing 2 completely different styles. That's why I really like this team. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Oreo Puppy Dog said they left no doubt with 3 huge wins. Hey, what, Oreo Puppy Dog, good to have you, buddy. I agree. They should be a 1 seed based on what they've done the last 3 games. I mean, that's just the way it is. If they win at home to finish out their season against Kentucky, I mean, how can you not make them a 1 seed, especially if they win their first game on Friday in the SEC tournament and make it to the tournament semifinals? Like we've said repeatedly, the semifinals is all that really matters in the SEC tournament because the championship game's on Sunday. So that the seeding has already been set for the NCAA tournament by that point. They probably have a contingency plan if somebody who was on the bubble or was not going to be in makes a run and wins the SEC tournament. They have a contingency plan, but otherwise everything's set. So all you got to do is make it to Saturday, really, and they've already got everything done by that point. Let's see. Yep, Mina, like he said, that's where she was going. Memberships. We've really thought about it. I mean, seriously, I really have. I'd be curious to hear what. I mean, y'all can tell us in the comments. What would you like to see if we did channel memberships? What extra content would you like to see for the members in that situation? Because I've seriously kicked that around numerous times, and Rustin and I have talked about it. Robert said, "Hopefully we win it all." Absolutely, buddy. Vols National Championship. Totally agree, Robert. Good to have you with us. Doug said, "I think we earned the number 1 seed." What you say, Vol Bros, and the rest of the viewers. I'm glad you asked that. I was probably a little behind on the comments there, so we just talked about that. Elijah agreed for sure.
I think another detail that matters a lot for the number 1 seed is not only is Tennessee's strength of schedule really, really high, but the SEC this year is very strong.
100%.
And the people who are talking about UConn and Houston, I'm like, I get it. Houston, their record is a little misleading. They're good, and they deserve to be a 1 seed, but their strength of schedule is nowhere near what Tennessee's is. And UConn isn't really either. And I really struggle with people who are like, UConn has to be a 1, Arizona has to be a 1. I mean, honestly, Arizona plays a tougher schedule also than Houston or UConn. And I think if they truly look at strength of schedule, they truly look at road wins. I mean, Tennessee has 8 true road wins this year. They have the most of any school in Division I basketball. I mean, they're doing things that nobody else is doing, and I don't see how you don't make them a 1 seed.
Yeah, totally fair. JL said Dalton was silencing the crowd last night. Absolutely, he was, and it was fun to watch, man. That was fun to watch. Hey, Carl, welcome, buddy. Good to have you with us. I appreciate that. You like my haircut? That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, got a new do going on here. Sports Clips, not a sponsor, but could be. We are open. Hey, I mean, this is a match made in heaven. It's a sports podcast. So Sports Clips, give us a call. Our DMs are open. Let's see. Doug said Coach Rick Barnes playing a tough schedule has paid off for us this year. I totally agree. It'll be interesting if we get to play Purdue or Kansas again in the NCAA tournament. It'll be interesting to see what happens the second time around. Elijah said the only thing I don't like about being the number one seed is that we'd have to be in the West region, which doesn't seem very fair to me. Seems they should send Houston to the West and give us the South region. And you know what? If Tennessee wins out, if they win the SEC tournament or at least get to the championship game, that could happen. I mean, like, I know that sounds crazy, but the committee would take that into, like, the regionality of it. They would take that into consideration. Now, if Tennessee loses against Kentucky, or if they lose in the quarterfinals or semifinals, it won't happen, I don't think. But if they win out, or at least get to the championship game in the SEC tournament, I mean, that legitimately could happen. Carl said Rustin's the new Wizard of Oz, the man behind the curtain. Let's see. Carl said, let's take what they give us and make a run. Absolutely, buddy. Absolutely. Once you're in that tournament, everybody has a shot. Everybody has a chance of winning the national title, for sure. So let's get to our first question, and y'all can let us know in the comments. Some folks have already been doing that, but let us know. Rustin, what was your takeaway from what you saw last night by the Vols?
I think several people already hit on it. I love the fact that, we went from winning 2 games that were track meets to really getting in a street fight. And the refs, my goodness, it was like the officials were told, just don't call anything. Just let them go out there and murder each other. It'll be fine. And I mean, I was sitting there. There were moments in that game when I was like, there's about to be a brawl breakout, because they're just killing each other and nobody's saying anything. So it was really nice to see our team go from winning 2 track meets against highly athletic teams to winning a rock fight with a insanely physical team. It just speaks volumes to who they are. It won't show up in the stat column, but Santiago Vescovi had a fantastic night. Like, he did all the little things: defensive communication, winning 50-50 balls, taking care of the ball, finding right guys. You don't see it as much, but even when they're on offense, he orchestrates a lot of the offense. He's telling people where to set up. He's just a glue guy, and it's been really cool to watch him go from, I've got to be a scorer, I've got to make sure I get these points, to, I'm just going to lead, and whatever that means tonight is whatever it means tonight. And I think he played extremely well. The numbers just weren't, they didn't jump off the screen. But Wes Rucker did tweet out this morning, and I thought this was interesting. When you look at all of our players and all of the stat lines, Zakai had a really impressive stat line. The player with the biggest plus or minus this morning when they ran the analytics, Santiago Vescovi. He scored 2 points, but he had the highest plus minus, which means literally every other thing that you can possibly do to impact a game, he did at a higher level than every other person on the floor. That's a big deal.
So my initial thoughts, I don't think we can, sugarcoat the fact that South Carolina did help us in the first half by not hitting any open shots ever. They had numerous open threes, and they could not hit them. They hit a couple, but so many shots, and that's why coming out of halftime, Jimmy Dykes and Ron Hart were talking about, like, this isn't who they are. Like, they don't shoot this many threes. They go to the basket. And so kudos to Tennessee's defense for not letting them get to the basket. They're making them settle for threes, but like I said, some of them are wide open, and you don't want them taking wide open. You don't want any team taking that many wide open threes, and they just weren't hitting them. So that was huge in the first half, especially in the first 5 minutes, because I don't think they hit a three in the first 5 minutes of the game. And I'll be honest with you,
I was just saying they were 8 for 29, so we definitely forced them to take more than they wanted.
Yeah, they were saying like right coming out of halftime, they said something like they normally on average shoot 23 threes per game, and they had shot like 16 or 18 in the first half. I mean, like we were forcing them to shoot from outside. And like I said, sometimes it was way too wide open though, and almost uncontested shots from the perimeter. Thankfully, they weren't going in. If they had, that game could have been very different from the get-go, because that crowd, I'm going to hand it to South Carolina's fans, that crowd wanted that game bad. I mean, from the tip off, they were into it. Every bucket in the first 5 minutes, there were only 3 of them, really, for South Carolina, but every bucket, man, they were going nuts. They wanted that game so bad. And if South Carolina had come out hot and making their shots, that crowd would have gone bananas immediately, and it could have been much different. So I'm glad they weren't hitting their shots at the beginning. But my overall takeaway from the game, well, once again, we keep harping on free throws. We made free throws. That was a big deal.
Except Jonas. We were 19 of 22, and Jonas had all 3 misses.
Yep. So I mean, if you go 19 for 22 from the line, that's a pretty good night. Especially down the stretch. We were making free throws down the stretch. We never trailed in the game. At least I don't think we did. I mean, that's incredible to go on the road. And I mean, my goodness, South Carolina knew what they were playing for too. If South Carolina wins that game, they essentially clinch a share of the SEC championship. They knew what they were playing for too. And so kudos to the Tennessee Volunteers for going into hostile territory against a really good team and taking care of business. That was incredibly impressive. Thank you, Oreo Puppy Dog. Oreo Puppy Dog said we were tied, but we never trailed. That's what I thought. We even withstood their run there at the end of the game. I mean, at one point we were up 13, 14 points, and they came back and got it within a 3-point game. We withstood that. So it showed a lot of maturity. It showed a lot of grit. It showed a lot of determination. Tennessee was not going to be denied, and kudos to them for that. And especially a strong, I may tip my hat here, but a strong kudos to Dalton Connect for being the answer repeatedly in the first half.
And it extended into the second half. I think that was one thing that really jumped out to me. Every time South Carolina started to build some momentum or make a little run, we would pull some just unbelievable shot and silence the crowd. And it wasn't just Dalton. Jonas had a couple, Zakai had a couple, Josiah had one. Like, it was
Jordan Gainey had one.
Jordan Gainey had one. Like, it was multiple guys. And honestly, that stood out to me maybe more than anything, because that's the sign of a team that will not get rattled in March. Like, they have guys who are willing to step up and take big shots in big moments, and it's not just one guy. And that's a huge positive.
That's a great point. That is a great point. Some of the other comments coming in about people's reactions to the game. Elijah said the refs let him fight, and I loved every second of it. Tobey got away with, at one point, the Mac kid, I can't think of his first name, but Tobey was literally just pulling the dude away from the ball on a ball going towards the baseline right in front of the official, and nothing was called. And the guy just looked at the ref like, are you kidding?
Well,
and I was like, he got lucky there.
Well, the Mac kid got away with assault and battery about 3 different times. So that it all equals out. I mean, there was twice on the baseline, and one of them it jolted Dalton so much he stopped and turned and looked at the ref like, did you see that? He caught Dalton with a forearm in the chest twice on the baseline, and it wasn't, I'm just gonna stand here and make sure that you can get around. Like he bowed him up on purpose. And then there was one that I was pretty angry about. He got away with one on Jemai, where Jemai was trying to fight through a screen, and the Mac kid just flat decked him. Like he punched him in the side of the head as Jemai tried to fight through the screen, and the refs just totally missed it. But it was obvious, closed fist to the side of the head, like it should have been an ejection, and no one saw it.
Yeah, stuff like that is very frustrating. Absolutely. JL said we could have won by more if the refs didn't help. Elijah said, also, I love how we've consistently hit clutch free throws in back-to-back-to-back close games. I totally agree. And that is vitally important as we head into March here, or later into March. Carl said, was so cool to see the Gamecocks pull close to us, and the team didn't flinch. They stuck with it. They persevered. Totally agree. It became a 3-point game. The crowd was into it. We silenced them again. They just kept responding every time. Every time they had to, they kept responding. Doug said, this is what you love to see in a team, when no one cares who gets the accolades and only cares about winning. That's the true definition of team. Totally agree. I think John Wooden would agree with you in that as well. Totally agree. That was his big thing as well. So JL might be giving a tip of the hat here to his play of the game, but he said that big steal near the end from Santi was slick. It sure was. There were several that Santi had, but there was one in particular where it was on the baseline closest to Tennessee, and the guy tried to make a pass, and he threw his hands up so quick that he was able to knock it up in the air, and we were able to get that deflection. I still don't know how he tipped that ball, but it was very impressive. Carl said, team, it's not about me. Well, maybe Dalton. The good thing there is that the team wants Dalton to do what he does. Carl said, we blew a few dunks. Crazy. I know it, man. I know it. So the one that Tobe had coming down the lane, holy moly. If he had connected with that and thrown that down, oh my goodness.
They might have had to replace a backboard, because the way he attacked that thing, something was going to give. Like he was ripping that thing down. The one Jonas missed drove me nuts, because they called it a clean block because the dude had his hand on the ball, but he also had his entire body on Jonas's. And I'm like, when did it become okay to just throw yourself into people, and if you get the ball, it's all fine? Like that. That one drove me nuts.
I so wish if Tobe had finished that slam, I think we all know what would have been the play of the game on our show tonight. That was crazy. Let's see. Sean is saying, well, what about the inbounds to DK?
Yeah.
Yep. That was the best part about that was that it wasn't the best pass in the world. He had to reach back and get it. And so the fact that he was able to reach back and then bring it still and hit it, that made it even more impressive. That was sweet.
Well, and I agree with Jimmy Dykes. Jimmy Dykes during the game, when it happened, he was like, how does that keep happening? He's called several of their games recently, and he's right. Yeah. Like, these coaches scout. Like, they know it's coming. How in the world do we keep getting that lob dunk to Dalton on baseline out of bounds plays? Like, everybody knows we're doing it. They run the same play almost every time. He has an option to either flash to the corner or flash to the basket, and he picks which screener he's going to use. And somehow, like, they just keep letting him get loose, and it's like, this isn't complicated. Like, why does this keep working?
So Dane Bradshaw last night after the game, he tweeted out, congrats, number one, on the title, Vol Hoops, against what may be the toughest SEC ever. Number two, Coach Rod with the transfer recruitment of a lifetime. And number 3, whoever draws up baseline out of bounds plays. Dalton had at least 9 points. The 3, the lob dunk, and then the 4-point play.
Yeah.
Can argue that was the difference in the game. That was Dane Bradshaw's take on
it. And it was the same play on all 3 plays. Like, they're not doing anything new or different.
Yep, Dalton has a choice which way he goes based on the defense, and they're passing the ball, and then he makes it.
Yep.
That's an easy play to draw. Pass it to Dalton, and Dalton will make it. That's pretty sweet. Let's see here.
So to that Rod Clark comment, I think the most interesting thing, and I can't remember who posted it this week, but just saying, there's a 6'7", 200-pound wing at Northern Colorado right now who's averaging 20 points a game, who's probably going to go in the transfer portal at the end of the season. What are the odds of that?
The sequel. Let's see here. Elijah said, have we ever had a season where we've gotten so many buckets in the final seconds of the first half? Okay, this is a great question. Feels like every other game we're hitting some shot in the half, and specifically Zakai. He's the one hitting it. I agree, man. It's like Zakai, he's like, this is my time. I make the shot at the end of the first half. And last night, it was a great shot. I mean, he had to put a little extra arc on it, and he accounted for it and swished it, man. It was beautiful. I agree, man. That's a great point right there. Zach, welcome, Zach. Good to have you, buddy. He said 3. Hey, everybody, 3-0, 4-0 next. You're right, man. You're right. You said we go 4-0, and we're pretty daggum close to it right now. Elijah makes a fantastic point. He said we really have 3 of the best defensive guards in the country. You were exactly right. Zakai, Jamai, and Santi are. I mean, I think without a doubt, this isn't orange colored glasses. This isn't bias. I think you could say that those 3 guys would make up the best defensive backcourt in the country.
Well, there's statistical evidence. Did you catch during the game when Jimmy Dykes was talking about defensive efficiency in the conference? And he said Dalton Kennett is ranked as the 6th best defender on Tennessee's team, but he's number 23 in the conference, which means that Tennessee has 6 of the top 23 defenders in the conference. I mean, that's nuts. Those numbers are obscene.
Yep, absolutely. Let's see here. Zach first said, "Who's on the black screen?" Oh, never mind. I hear that voice. That's pretty good. Backflip Spaghetti. Hey, man, good to see you. So, howdy, fellas. Let's close the season out right and sweep the Cats. Absolutely. Totally agree. Said Tobe was hungry last night. Absolutely. Okay, so JL let us know his play of the game, so I'm going to star that because we're going to come back to that here in just a second. Elijah said Jimmy Dykes is Tennessee's biggest fan, and I love him for it. That's great. He has definitely called a lot of Tennessee's games this year, and you can tell he respects and appreciates what they're doing right now.
Yeah, I don't think he's so much of a fan as what you just said. I think he just really understands and appreciates quality basketball, and he sees them doing it on such a consistent basis that he's just kind of fallen in love with them.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And you can tell he respects Rick Barnes and what Rick Barnes has been able to do. One of the coolest things about that was his respect for Dalton and specifically Dalton's work ethic. There was several, it's probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. There was the clip of Jimmy Dykes rebounding for Dalton pregame. Dalton's out there warming up and Jimmy's out there in his shirt and tie, rebounding and passing it back to him, just watching him shoot, watching his form, that kind of stuff. He loves his work ethic. He loves the player that Dalton is. And how could you not? I mean, the dude has earned it. Like Rick Barnes after the game last night said, or maybe it was this morning in one of the interviews this morning, they're all running together now. But he said, if you want to find Dalton at like 11 o'clock at night, just pull into Pratt Pavilion. He'll be there shooting. I mean, like that's what he does all the time. He has earned every bit of what we're seeing happen right now. Backflip Spaghetti said, Connect is getting smarter like AI. Let's see. Carl said, amongst it all with the physicality, Jonas was called for fouls when he was clearing. Clearly just got the ball. So I agree. So one in particular last night that I was thinking about earlier as Rustin was talking, There was one blatantly obvious makeup call on the same possession. Guy drove the lane, and Jonas actually fouled the dude, and they didn't call it. And then he got the rebound, went back up, and Jonas just made a beautiful block, all ball, and then they called the foul because there was a makeup call so bad. Doug said, I like Jimmy Dykes so much better than Jay Billis. Let's see. Hang on now. Mino Likey, is that your play of the game? You got to let me know. Because if so, I'm going to come back to it. Let's see. Zach's trying to explain his username so everybody knows he's not a Bama fan. We know you're not a Bama fan, Zach. Let's see. Doug said Rick Barnes is the best defensive coach in the country. Dalton felt so. That's why he came here. He said that in an interview. He said, I knew I had to get better defensively, so where better to go than to play for Rick Barnes at Tennessee to learn how to do that. So he agrees with you on that one for sure. Elijah said, if we can have DK do his thing, Zakai get about 11 points, Jonas get 13, and Waka gets around 8 or 9 with a couple other people hitting a few buckets, no one is ever going to beat this team. You are 100% correct. That is totally agree. Literally the formula. Having, what was it? 3 people in double digits. This team right now, when 3 people score double digits this season, they're like 24-3 or something like that. Or no, that's too many. It was 19-2. So they haven't lost, so it'd still be 2. So it's like 21-2 or 22-2 when 3 people score double digits on the Vols roster. That's the formula. Because like Elijah's saying, Dalton's going to get his points, whether he's hitting from the outside like he was last night, or if he's getting to the basket, or both. He's going to get his points. If Jonas is an inside force, that's extra helpful. And then really you've got Zakai, Santi, Jordan Gainey, Tobe,
Josiah.
Yep, that's exactly right. Those 5 guys, if just one of them gets double digits, you're not going to beat Tennessee at this point. So if that's the formula, I mean, that you just nailed it. That is 100% the formula. Zach said, how'd you know it was me? You're right, Zach. I know you, man, for sure. I got you. Let's see. Backflip Spaghetti is calling his prediction for Saturday. He said UT will be in the 90s. Kentucky will be in the 70s or 80s. All right, so here's the deal. Kentucky is scoring like crazy over the past few games. If Tennessee holds them to the 70s, that is incredible. That would be a dominant performance. Can they do it? They can. But it would be incredible if they did.
Yeah, Kentucky's back to full strength. They've got everybody fully healthy. I think Tennessee is going to have to try to do a lot of what they did against South Carolina, where they play a lot of drop coverage and force Kentucky to become a 3-point shooting team. They also need to pressure end to end and try to create some freshman turnovers. Let the Kentucky youth throw us a few 50-50 balls. Like they're going to have their hands full. This Kentucky team is not the same Kentucky team we played the first time.
For sure. Braden said, have we talked about player of the game yet? We haven't, but we're almost there. Zach said, we're not losing until next season. And he said JP is his player of the game from yesterday. Quality bench minutes from JP yesterday. Let's see here. Elijah said, I genuinely think we're going to destroy the Cats on Saturday. Got to think we beat them by 11 in Rupp, with Rob Dillingham having the game of a lifetime and a senior day for us. It won't be close, to be honest. Man, I hope, but I think it's going to be real close. I think that's my take.
2 of their top 8 players didn't play at Rupp. So it's going to be a very different game against a very different team.
Yep. Backflip Spaghetti says we have at least 4 in double digits and connect 45 plus. If Dalton scores 45 on Saturday, talk about the way to end of the career. I hope that happens. I will be shocked if it does, but I hope it does. I mean, I would love it. Carl just made, unfortunately, the best point of the night so far for many of us. He said, listening to the talking heads, it sounds like Edie has National Player of the Year wrapped up, but I believe Dalton is drafted first. So I think you're 100% correct, unfortunately, based on some of the things I've seen, national media members saying. They're talking about how Zach Edey is the best player in the country, and it's not even close. They're talking about how he makes 62% of his field goals because it's like all just dunks because they're passing the ball, and he's 7 feet 47 inches tall, and he just reaches up and dunks it. So of course you're going to have a high percentage when that's the case. I think it's completely unfair to Dalton, that comparison, because Dalton is an extremely more versatile player. You do not see Zach Edey running point. Dalton has done that repeatedly this year in multiple games. You don't see Zach Edey coming off ball screens and draining fadeaway threes. It's not even a comparison in my opinion. Dalton is so much more versatile. I agree with you. I think based on what national media members are saying, Zach Edey will get National Player of the Year, but Dalton 100% would be drafted first because he's more of an NBA type player. I would agree with that totally.
I'm not sure that Tennessee fans ever need to plan on a national player of anything. There's not enough votes in the Southeast. There's too many votes in the Midwest and West Coast. And the West Coast just watches ESPN to figure out who they're voting for. And most of the voters in the Northeast and the Midwest hate Tennessee fans. I mean, they just do. Tennessee fans have driven them crazy. They have chastised them. They, the very viral part of our fan base that just has no filter has angered so many of those voters. I don't see a day where anyone will ever win anything that has national player of anything on the front of it in a Tennessee jersey. It's funny when they talk about Nico and they talk about Heisman odds. There's no chance that Tennessee, if Peyton Manning could not win a Heisman Trophy, that was before social media. If the national media disliked Tennessee enough to not give Peyton Manning a Heisman Trophy, no other future player is going to win it, because now we have social media and look at Pat Forty. You think Pat Forty is ever going to vote for anybody from Tennessee? Look at Kirk Herbstreit. I mean, these guys are not going to ever get over the chip on their shoulder and the grudge they have against Tennessee fans. And so they're just not, it's a lost cause.
Unfortunately, I think you're exactly right. I think that is an excellent take. Mr. Jones made a really good point here. He said, good thing we wrapped up the championship with a game to spare, so we're not playing tight and we can just be ourselves on Saturday. I think that's a great point. A very good point. Let's see. JL said TBA will be rocking on Saturday. Elijah said it's Santi, DK's, and Josiah's last home game. That's true. It is. It'll be a tear-jerking, sentimental evening for sure. Let's see.
Santi and Josiah have both already said that it's going to be a very emotional day for them. I hope that doesn't carry over.
Yeah. Mr. Jones said Sam Bowie got drafted before Michael Jordan. Just saying. That's a good point. The height doesn't always equal better player. Big Orange Vols said Volunteers are now tied with LSU for second most SEC championships. Let's get that Final Four this year, baby. Backflip Spaghetti said he can have it. Edie can have Player of the Year as long as we get the national championship. Hey, I'm all for that. Absolutely. Sign me up. I'm down for that for sure. Zach said he's a big crybaby. Mr. Jones is now just listing off random post players who got drafted before more versatile wing players. Greg Oden got drafted for Kevin Durant. Let's see. Doug said
that's the old NBA, though. Now post players don't get drafted hardly at all because the NBA has no use for them.
Let's see. It's like what the running backs becoming in the NFL, apparently. Mr. Jones said Connect Four, Final Four. Carl is agreeing with you. He said that's true. The national media hate us, even baseball. Look at just the LSU championships alone. Yet only Frank Thomas and Todd Helton in the Hall of Fame from the SEC. That's a good point. Backflip Spaghetti said now the NCAA has to lick their wounds, and the media will gladly help in that. So the hate will grow. Let's see. Elijah said it's the same thing from last year or 2 years ago when Hendon wasn't a finalist in the and being invited to New York. You're exactly right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Don't even waste the oxygen trying to figure it out. Like it's not going to, especially in the social media era, it is not going to change. I mean, we have fans who post screenshots of national media members who have blocked them. If you've harassed these people to the point that they're blocking you online, you ain't getting their vote. You can have the nicest player on the face of the earth. Josiah Jordan James could have gone for a triple-double this year on average, and he would not win National Player of the Year because he's in a Tennessee uniform.
I like Backflip Spaghetti's idea. Let Dalton and Zach Edey play one-on-one. Winner takes all. They get the trophy. I love it. Sanders, welcome, Sanders. Good to have you. She said us winning at South Carolina was huge. Totally agree. Absolutely. So, Rustin, who was your player of the game? We're going to start with that because I'm going to have some fun with play of the game. So, who was your player of the game last night?
Yeah, obviously Dalton was just exceptional. He had a great game. But I felt like 13 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds, 1 steal, and only 1 turnover in a street fight. I thought Zakai did a fantastic job controlling the game, keeping everything the way Rick Barnes wanted it, orchestrating offense, guarding Michi Johnson almost all night. Zakai played 35 minutes. Almost all of it, he was guarding Michi Johnson. That's a tough guard for 35 minutes. So
absolutely,
to be that physical, be that productive on offense, and only make 1 turnover, I just thought Zakai had a fantastic game, and I'll go with him.
So my player of the game was Dalton, solely because repeatedly in the first half when that crowd was so into it and they hit a big shot and all of a sudden here they all come and they're getting so pumped up, and Dalton comes back down the floor and immediately silences all of them with a deadly 3. I mean, like he was the silencer in the first half, especially the first 7 minutes of the game. You could make it essentially 10 minutes, first 10 minutes of the game. He was the reason why the crowd could never really just blow the top off the roof of the building, because every time South Carolina would make a big shot, Dalton would answer it immediately, and it was a beautiful thing to watch.
If you haven't seen the highlights with the Vol Network audio over it, when Dalton went on that tear where he hit 3 threes on 3 possessions, on the third one, before he ever even caught the ball, Bert Bertelkamp could see the play developing. And as Dalton's catching the ball, like he's not even in shooting position yet, Bert goes, "That's in."
Money.
and he hadn't even taken the shot yet. But I mean, there's those moments when you're just so in the zone that everybody can already see it going in before you even take the shot. It was fun to watch.
Elijah said his player of the game was Cam Carr, easily. Carl said Santi was his player of the game. I think that's a good choice. Mr. Jones said Zakai was his. I think that's a good choice. Let's see. Mina Lackey said the whole team. Absolutely. It was fantastic to watch him earn that victory for sure. Sanders said my player of the game was Jonas. I think that's a good choice as well. Let's see. Elijah, that's play of the game, so we'll come back to that. Braden said easily Dalton for player of the game. More than 10 games with 25 or more points is a good stat for player of the year too. Totally agree. Mina Lackey agreed with your player of the game, Rustin. She said Zakai was spectacular. Zach said player of the game was Santi. And his play of the game was the inbound alley-oop to Dalton. Braden said Dalton hit multiple daggers in that game. He sure did. Mr. Jones said Waka Waka's defense. Let's see. Carl gave his play of the game, so I'll star that one. We'll come back to it here in just a moment. Backflip Spaghetti said it's a tie for player of the game between Santi and Dalton. Like he said, each player brought something great. I couldn't pick just one. How's that for a great problem to have? Amen, sister. Absolutely. That's the kind of problem you want to have, isn't it? Absolutely. Sandra, I agree. This is a great point. She said Jonas hitting those jumpers was huge. Absolutely. Especially the multiple jumpers there in the first half, and he had one in the second. Yeah, that's a great point. That was huge because, you're thinking, yeah, we had a good possession. We made him settle for a Jonas Adu 18-foot jumper, and he makes it. And you're like, oh, come on. Like that's demoralizing as a opposing team. Elijah said Dalton locked up SEC player of the year last night. I agree. I felt like he had it locked up for last night, but after that, there's no way anybody should vote for somebody else.
He got Bruce Pearl's vote. We know that.
Yeah, that was pretty funny, actually. So apparently after a game last week, Bruce Pearl was asked who, would you vote for Dalton Connect for player of the year? And he said he was going to vote for the best player on the best team. And so last night after the game, the official Twitter account for the Vol Hoops basketball team tweeted out, well, we know he at least got one vote for SEC player of the year. That was pretty funny. Let's see. Mr. Jones gave his play of the game. Zach said, I would give it one at a time. Boss needs me at 4:30 in the morning, so I have a couple more minutes. Zach, hey, man, we appreciate you joining us. We understand, man, if you got to go to sleep. I get it totally. We love you, Zach. We're glad you're with us, man. Kevin, welcome, Kevin. Good to see you, buddy. Kevin is a good friend of ours. I hope you're doing well, Kevin. He said South Carolina is a very good team. It took a lot of guys. Absolutely. You're exactly right. That was a huge team win. He said, I felt Zakai's focus and energy after each South Carolina run was key in keeping Tennessee moving forward and responding. I agree. Zakai has become the floor general that you would hope that a point guard could be. He's the definition of it right now. He's running the show. I agree. Elijah said the basketball Twitter admin needs a raise. Yep, I agree with that. Yes, I'm so glad you said that. So they did, after the game, they also tweeted out 5-way tie, laughing about like that was actually a thing that was going to happen. That was really good too. I agree. Sanders said, did y'all see the media talking down on Tennessee for saying, give me a ring after the game? I did see that. Yep, I sure did. But man, that's a huge deal. What they accomplished was absolutely incredible and arguably the toughest conference in the country this season, and arguably the toughest that conference has ever been. So that was a huge accomplishment that they did. So Rustin, we're going to do play of the game now. What was your play of the game?
Yeah, I'll go Santi's alley-oop to Jonas. Not so much because it was a good play, because honestly I thought Santi threw a really poor pass, but more because, and I've watched it 4 or 5 times now, and I can't tell if the ball hit the backboard or if Jonas's hand hit the backboard, but more because Jonas caught it in an awkward angle, and if you watch it back, his hands are above the box. Like, he is so ridiculously high off the ground. And, for him to elevate and catch that ball, because it wasn't a good pass, to elevate and not only catch it, but adjust in midair, something hit the backboard, because the backboard shakes, and still finish the dunk. For a guy his size, that's just not normal. Like, most guys his size would have come down with it and then gone back up. A lot of guys his size never would have caught it because it would be too far out of their range. Jonas has become a special player.
I totally agree. I mean, he's arguably the best big man in the SEC. He's extremely consistent. I mean, he is a consistent player. So it's tough to pick a play of the game from last night because there's a bunch of them that you could choose. The inbounds to play to Dalton, where he had to reach back and grab it and then bring it forward and dunk it. That was awesome. The Connect Four. Everybody's been waiting for that all season long, just so that we could say Connect Four. And as soon as it happened, the Twitter account for Vol Hoops tweeted it out, Connect Four, because it's just fun to say. But I'm going to go, and I kind of want to make that my play of the game just because we could say Connect Four. But it's really hard. It's really hard to ignore. I think it was Dalton's third three. I think it was his third one. They came down. They had hit a huge shot, man. They had momentum. The crowd was getting nuts. They were getting into it. They made a huge shot, and Dalton was bringing the ball up the court. No pass, just pull up three in front of a dude's face and silences everybody. And it's like, nope, we're gonna win now.
That was the second one. The third one the third one they ran money, and he came off a baseline screen, and for some reason his guy went under the screen and just left him wide open.
Oh, in the corner, I remember that. Yeah.
That's the one. That's the one I was talking about. The Bert Bertelkamp on the air saw him come open and went, "That's in," before he ever even took the shot.
Yep. So yeah, that was the second one that I was talking about. I'm glad you said that. I mean, just incredible performance by him. Like he said, he shut up the crowd the whole night long. You're exactly right. That's exactly what he did. JL said the Connect Four was a demoralizer. You're exactly right. I agree. Backflip Spaghetti said too many big plays to choose from. Isn't that a good problem to have? Kevin said the Connect Four was the play of the game. It's hard to argue with that, right? Mr. Jones said the Ziegler three that essentially sealed the win. Yeah, that's good. That's a good choice. Sanders said my play was the Dalton Connect Four. Absolutely. Doug said, I love the show tonight and being able to interact with everyone. Good night, and I hope everybody has a great weekend. Let's beat those Cats Saturday. Absolutely. Totally agree. As Kevin said, Zakai's always had the passion, but you're right. He stepped into that leadership role. I think Dalton coming helped him to focus on directing the team. I think that's a great take. I think it's a great point. Absolutely. Sanders said her play of the game was a Dalton 3-point play. Elijah said it was one person talking trash about DK celebrating, and 90% of national media attacked the dude for it. Let's see. Some of the comments I'd starred. JL had said earlier that the Connect Four play was his play of the game. Amina, like he said, Connect Four was her play of the game. Elijah said his play of the game was the 4-point play. I love Carl's play of the game. He said Vols winning, robbing them of their 5-way tie. Absolutely. But Zach asked us a question here. Zach said, so are you picking Kentucky or Tennessee on Saturday?
I don't ever pick against Rick Barnes at home. Tennessee has one of the longest home winning streaks in America.
So I'm going to say Tennessee wins 95-93. Nope, 94-93. That'll be my prediction for Saturday. Maylock Smasher, as Dick Vitale would say.
JP Estrella put back at the buzzer.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely. Off a Cameron Carr miss. Let's see here. Like he said, Z's 3 was a killer. Backflip Spaghetti said his play of the game was the South Carolina women's team wasting tournament time to watch the guys' team lose. I love it. That's the best play of the game of all right there. You win, man. You win. That's the best. That's the best. Let's see. Mr. Jones said, "Don't jinx him," because we picked him to win. That's pretty good. Braden said, "Connect 4 was his play of the game." Elijah said, "We also have the longest win streak in the SEC against ranked teams, especially at home." So that's what Rustin was talking about as well. As they don't lose at home recently. I hope that continues. Mr. Jones said, "Vol till I fall." Like he said, 93-87. I think that's a really good prediction. It will be a high scoring game, just like the Auburn. I told some folks the day of the Auburn game, I said 95-92 Tennessee. And I was pretty close. It's going to be a high scoring game. Carl said Drinkwitz told Beamer, "Don't show up with a sign." Oh man, that's my favorite of the night right there. I like that. That's good. Elijah said 110-94 Vols. Like he said, 93-77 Vols. I prefer that. But she thinks it'll be 93-87, but she prefers this one. I'm with you on that. Absolutely. Mr. Jones said, "Are we a number 1 seed, win or lose?"
I think if we win, we're absolutely a 1 seed. I think Agreed. If we lose, we need to win probably 2 games in the SEC tournament to guarantee a 1 seed.
Totally agree. And if someone else would lose above us, that would help. But yes, I 100% agree. I do not think I don't think they have locked in a 1 seed yet, because for some reason, even though everybody would agree the SEC is the toughest conference in the country right now, the team that just won the SEC outright still is not being guaranteed a 1 seed in the tournament. It's bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre. Backflip Spaghetti said the haters will use any loss to punish us. And you're exactly right. You're exactly right. He said Lenardi finally made us a 1 seed. We'll see how long that sticks.
Do you understand whatever? Like I'm trying to figure it out. Maybe it's just because he has the biggest voice, but why does everybody fixate so much on what Joe Lenardi thinks?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, if you go back and look at previous years, he's typically not right. So, I watch all these people, paying such close attention to what he says, and I'm like, why do we care what he thinks? Like, he's not on the committee, and I bet if they went back and did analytics on his percentage correctness, it's not very good.
Yeah, he's made a niche market for himself, that's for sure. Carl said Tennessee 84, Kentucky 73. If the Vols hold Kentucky to 73 points, that'll be their best game of the season defensively, because Kentucky's really scoring it well right now, for sure. That absolutely. Elijah said, "I just don't know why Arizona's even in the conversation. They lost by 20 to Stanford." It's a fair point. But real quick, because it's already 10:01 and I've still got some things I need to do this evening. Real quick, I want to talk about the baseball team. Unbelievable week for the baseball team. They beat Kansas State 15-5 on Tuesday night. Kansas State's a good team. And Tennessee threw a bunch of relief pitchers at them and beat them 15-5.
And Kansas State threw their ace.
And Dean Curley may have had one of the best games ever in a Tennessee uniform as a true freshman. A dude almost hit the cycle in home runs.
Missed it by about 5 feet.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, unreal. Who does that? You know what I'm saying? Dude almost hit for the cycle. He had a 2-run home run, a 3-run home run, a grand slam, and almost had a solo home run. It landed, like Rustin said, about 5 feet short of the wall. It's unbelievable, man. It's absolutely incredible. And that ball would have been gone if the wind hadn't knocked it down.
Yeah, ironically, the one ball that didn't get out. So for those who don't know anything about Lindsey Nelson Stadium, there's typically a vacuum in right center field. And if you get a ball in the air to right center, routine fly balls typically float out. So it was weird that the only home run that didn't go out was the one that was to right center, which is typically where everything goes out.
Yep. Yeah, the wind was blowing the total opposite direction it normally does. Fantastic job by the baseball team. And then, they beat Southern Indiana last night 2-1, and people are like, oh my goodness, they only beat Southern Indiana 2-1. Rustin and I have talked about this multiple times over the past couple of weeks, but here's the thing. If you go and look across college baseball, Vanderbilt, South Carolina, Clemson, Wake Forest, all these
Mississippi State,
absolutely. All these very good teams have all lost game to mid-major universities.
Some of them have gotten waxed by mid-majors in the midweek game.
Like 18-3.
Yeah. Georgia Southern went down and destroyed Mississippi State.
Clemson was the one, I think, that lost 18-3 to
Belmont.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yep. I mean, like, the fact that Tennessee is not losing these games and they're actually dominating people most of the time, that's incredible. It's absolutely, I mean, like, this is Elijah said Clemson lost to Wichita State 18-1, which, I mean, Wichita State's a good team too, but they shouldn't be beating Clemson 18-1. No. So I mean, the fact that Tennessee is just blowing out teams. Yeah. Bowling Green, they dominated them last weekend.
And, they're going to win all 3 games against Illinois this weekend because they're not good. So, they're 13-1. After the weekend, they're going to be 16-1.
So this weekend, like Rustin said, they have a weekend series against Illinois. It is their last out-of-conference weekend series before the conference series starts next weekend. Next weekend, which would be the 15th through the 17th, they play Alabama to start SEC play. So they have a 3-game series against Alabama in Tuscaloosa next weekend. So it's really going to get amping up then for sure.
It's hard to believe that we're already at the conference schedule. Like that first month and a half of the season flew by.
It sure did. So some of the other comments that came through, wow, a whole bunch of comments came through. Elijah said Dean Curley is a dude. Backflip Spaghetti said, oh, he's still talking about basketball. So I think our defense is locked in. Kentucky won't handle it. Because, hey, Mino Lackey has a good point here. Orange color glasses could be an emoji. I like that. I think that's a great idea, actually. Carl said he missed the home run cycle by 2 feet. Absolutely. Backflip Spaghetti, you gotta let us know which streak are you talking about. Are you talking about the baseball team's winning streak? Or are you talking about the Lady Vols NCAA tournament appearance streak? Because that's in jeopardy.
Tomorrow at 2:30, and I'm going to stand by what I said Sunday. If you look at the analytics, the SEC does not look good nationally. And I think whoever wins that 2:30 game tomorrow is in, and whoever loses is out. I think the Lady Vols are playing Alabama in a play-in game. And the biggest indicator of that I think people are kind of ignoring because they have SEC bias. Today was day 2 of the women's tournament. On day 2 of men's or women's tournament, there's always 4 games. So there's 8 teams playing. The 2 worst teams are already gone. They've gotten beat. They're home. So there were 8 supposedly good teams playing today from the SEC. No one was ranked. Not a single one. When the men's tournament happens and day 2 takes place and those 8 teams are playing, there will be multiple ranked teams in those 8 teams. And it's just, I mean, right now, men's and women's basketball in the SEC is night and day. The men are extremely strong and the women are not good.
I mean, you think about it, you got South Carolina, LSU, and after that, it drops off tremendously.
Yeah, there's nothing. After those 2, it's a big drop off.
Braden said baseballs are on a roll, cannot be stopped. I agree. Carl is talking about Christian Moore's home run. He said, Braden said, Tennessee has perfect game All-Americans sitting the bench. It's crazy depth. I agree. Absolutely.
Well, it's like we've talked about, Ariel Antigua won the shortstop job. Dean Curley's not even supposed to be playing. And you got a guy 5 feet from the home run cycle who wasn't even supposed to be in the lineup.
Yeah, exactly right. Let's see. Elijah said almost every weekend series in the SEC is going to be a ranked series. Yeah, I mean, he's right. Absolutely. It's the best baseball conference in the country. Totally agree. Carl said it was good for the team to have an off night against Southern Indiana and still win because it showed them that they can't take a game off. And I think that's a great point. Kudos to the pitching staff for only allowing one run. That's impressive. Backflip Spaghetti said, so it's a baseball streak. How many games are they going to win? I mean, when you look at their schedule, they got Illinois and then Eastern Kentucky and then a 3-game series at Alabama. I mean, I would assume that they might drop one at Alabama. I think they'll win the series and win at least 2 games, but I mean, who knows? I mean, I hope they keep it going, man. I really do. I hope they don't lose ever again. Mr. Jones, so you don't want to peak too early or baseball, and maybe have a similar result as 2022 when they don't make it to Omaha, even though they're the best team in the country, probably. I mean, I agree with that. Well, I've got a few things I still need to do this evening, but we certainly weren't going to miss the Vol Bros. I mean, this is the fun stuff right here. So we appreciate everybody joining us tonight. Lady Vols in action this weekend as well, and in Knoxville, the softball team. I mean, Backflip Spaghetti said, "Good night, y'all. Good night, Backflip Spaghetti. We're glad you joined us. We hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful evening." Rustin, I appreciate you joining us, even though you're en route there in transit. I appreciate that. That's commitment and dedication to the show.
Not a problem.
We hope everybody has a wonderful evening. I'm going to end with the baseball outro. No, I'm going to do basketball because they're the champs. So let's do the basketball outro. Mina, like he said, enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Braden, good night, man. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. Hey, Carl, you the man. Thank you so much. $10 super chat. That's awesome, man. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Mr. Kevin said, enjoyed the show. Hey, thank you, Kevin. Thank you so much, buddy. Mr. Jones said, Rocky Top, you always be home, sweet home to me. Champs of the SEC. Absolutely. Absolutely, buddy. I love it. That's what I'm talking about. Well, I hope everybody has a great evening. We look forward to seeing everybody Sunday night. We'll have a weekend of baseball to talk about and Tennessee, Kentucky basketball game to talk about. So I look forward to seeing everybody then. Have a great evening and go Vols, baby.